All right, so for this next question, we're going to dig in a little bit deeper and we're going to look in a different direction. So you may notice that this one talks about y components. If we have two different vectors and you see two sets of information, then we end up with something called resultant components, resultant vectors, resultant angle. This is the word that pops up over and over again. And it just basically means that when you take pieces of two other vectors, or it could be more, but of other vectors and then put them together, the results, right, makes the resultant vector after everything's said and done. If we're looking for a particular component, so, resultant, we'll say R is the vector for the resultant vector. The y component here is going to come from combining the other y components. So I need to do something very similar here to what I did on question 3, but this time with the y component. So we want to check the formula sheet and see what that means. Before we had ax, this time we have ay. Very similar setup, very similar commands on the calculator. But what we're going to have is the original magnitude, the hypotenuse a, then it's going to multiply by, this time, a sine function. So it should be the button right next to the cosine function that we had to use in the last one. Then plugging in our values here, we've got 18.38 for our magnitude, and sine because of the definition and how these get drawn out, and 15.26 for this particular angle. Running that through a calculator, if you work carefully and you're comfortable with how you type stuff in, you should hopefully get something around 4.8376, and that'll go on and on. So just a squiggly mark to indicate more numbers. Meters per second, because that's what we started with. Okay, and then that just gives us the first of the two numbers we need. So we'll run through, we want to find the y component of the b vector. Well, hopefully it makes sense. You're going to find that basically the same way, just with your new numbers. So the b vector, whatever the magnitude is, it's at the end of the question there, multiplies again by a sine function, because for our purposes, that's just what a sine function does. Okay, so to find this component, we take the original magnitude, so 12.24. Again, looking at a sine function because we're looking at y components. And the angle this time is 56.74. However, you need to run that through a calculator. Again, it's a process you need to get familiar with soon. If you're taking the lab section of this course also, we'll do a lot more work there. So hopefully that'll help you get used to your calculator. But it looks like this comes out to be about 10.2349, and then again, just a bunch of numbers. But that's plenty. All right, so now we have everything we need to put this together and find an answer. Technically, we don't have the answer yet, but we're super duper close. We're going to take each of these different values. So for the first one, 4.8376, blah, blah, blah. And for the other one, 10.2349, so on, so on. And the units won't change. We'll just overall get a larger answer because everything's positive. But by combining these, we should get about 15.07. And because this is intended to be the final answer, round to two places here. Again, think about money. You want to be within about 2 cents. So anything between about 15.05 and about 15.10 should be close enough. Anything further away from that, you want to be concerned.